The day my son became a millionaire, my daughter-in-law told me to get out of her house and die somewhere else. I was 58, a widow who had carried a family on my back for decades. The very morning my son and his wife waved a $79 million ticket, I was cast out like a burden. My grandchildren cried. My son looked at the floor. My daughter-in-law smiled like a queen. But they didn't read the line that mattered, the name on the ticket. That single oversight would one day bring them to their knees. My name is Margaret Ann Miller. I live in a small North Carolina town where people still borrow sugar and return dishes. For 30 years I was married to Michael, a man whose idea of romance was fixing what was broken. He smelled of sawdust, hummed old hymns under his breath, and kept his promises. When cancer took him, he squeezed my hand and said, "When it's hard, sing the Psalms out loud. The soul remembers when the mind forgets." I tried. I sang while paying bills and packing away his shirts. I sang while returning casserole dishes. And when I couldn't sing, I let the radio sing for me. What kept me tethered to the living world was Daniel, our only child, a late-in-life miracle who made me believe the future could still stretch ahead like a road after rain. Daniel married Vanessa, a woman who could turn a compliment into a test. She was polished, efficient, allergic to anything that could not be measured. For a year she called me Mrs. Miller, even when I begged for Margaret. She rearranged my pantry, relabeled my flour, and installed a gray couch that looked like it had never forgiven anyone. But she and Daniel gave me two bright anchors. Lucas, 10, who asked questions big enough for eternity, and Emily, 7, who sang to the dog, the rain, and the broccoli she refused to eat. They ran to me without glancing at their mother's face to see if permission had been granted. When the plant laid Daniel off, they moved in for a season. Seasons stretch when rent is free. I swallowed my pride because families bend. I cooked. I babysat. I stayed quiet when Vanessa used the word boundaries to mean distance. I reminded myself that love can survive poor lighting and tight budgets. 3 weeks before everything collapsed, I stopped in at Rose's Quick Mart for milk and thread. The sign blinked jackpot 79 million. "Try one," Rosa said. "Sign it. You never know." I laughed, but I pulled a pen from my purse and wrote my name slowly, the way my mother taught me. Not a scribble, my whole name. I tucked the ticket in the zippered pocket of my wallet beside a photo of Michael and forgot about it. The morning of the wind smelled like bacon and floor polish. Light lay across the kitchen table like ribbon. I was reading Psalm 27 when the front door banged. Daniel stumbled in, face lit from the inside. Vanessa glided behind him, her heels clicking like punctuation. "Mom," he gasped, holding up a paper sleeve. "We won. 79 million. We actually won." Joy leapt in me. "Oh, Daniel." I stepped forward, arms open. Vanessa inserted herself between us, smile thin and precise. "Let's skip the theatrics. We need to talk about realities." "Let me hug my son," I said. "You can hug him later. Right now we're setting boundaries." Daniel's smile faltered. The paper sleeve trembled. "Maybe we should slow down." She didn't. "Margaret, you've been living here on Daniel's pity for a long time." I laughed, stunned. "This is my house." "Exactly," she said sweetly. "Your house. Your rules. Your shadow over everything. That ends today. We are not poor anymore. We won't be guilt-tripped into supporting anyone." "I've never asked you for a dime," I said. "You cost even when you don't ask," she replied. "Your presence costs. Your opinions cost. Your casseroles cost. We're done." "Vanessa," Daniel began. She spoke over him. "We're moving out. We're not taking you with us. We don't need your pension check, your slow ways, or your drama." She leaned in, eyes glittering. "Go die somewhere else." The skillet hissed and went quiet. I reached for the back of a chair. Silence fell, the kind that comes when your child refuses to look at you. "Daniel," I said. "Look at me." He looked at the floor. "Mom, this is complicated." "It isn't," I said. "It's cruel." I packed because there was nothing else to do. Church dress, 2 skirts, 3 blouses, the blue sweater with a moth bite at the cuff, Michael's Bible, soft as bread, the photo of us at Lucas's kindergarten graduation, everyone squinting into autumn sun. I slid the frame into the suitcase, as if the glass could keep us from breaking. Lucas appeared at the door, jaw set in a line I recognized from mirrors. Emily clung to her stuffed rabbit and then pushed it at me with solemn ceremony. "You take Bun Bun," she said, "so you're not lonely." I knelt and pressed my forehead to theirs like I used to when I checked for fevers. "You didn't do anything wrong," I said. "This is a grown-up mistake." "Then fix it," Lucas demanded, fierce as a small prophet. "I'm trying," I said. Vanessa's voice floated down the hall. "Children upstairs." She peeled Emily's fingers from my sleeve, as if lifting tape from a fragile page. Emily's eyes spilled. Lucas stood his ground until Daniel said his name. Then he went. I watched them go the way you watch a lantern carried into dark, the light smaller with every step. At the door, Daniel pressed a bank envelope into my palm. "For a motel," he whispered. "Just a few nights." I pushed it back. "You'll need it," I said. "Money makes people hungrier than they expect." Outside, drizzle pinned itself to my coat like a row of cheap pearls. The porch boards creaked the way they did under Michael's boots and under Lucas's tricycle before I outlawed riding on the porch. The house looked spotless, curated, as if history had been edited. It reminded me of a picture frame still showing the stock photo. I walked because my legs knew what to do even when the rest of me didn't. Left at the Pine, past the mailbox that leaned like a tired man. Stop at the bus shelter. Sit. Breathe. A teenager with purple hair handed me a napkin without looking up from her phone. "In case," she said. "Lots of people cry here." "Thank you," I said, and the cartoon hamburger printed on the napkin made me brave in a ridiculous way. I checked my wallet, license, insurance card, the photo of Michael, the prayer card with Psalm 27, and the paper sleeve from Rosa. I slid the ticket out as carefully as if it were a letter from a war. The paper felt heavier than it should, as if my name had soaked into it. The letters were mine. Slow, careful, stubborn. The date in the corner matched my memory. The clerk had seen me sign. The machine had stamped it. I stared until the words blurred, and then cleared. My first feeling wasn't triumph. It was relief, cool and clean. "Lord," I whispered, and the teenager said same, without looking up, which almost made me laugh. "Give me wisdom." I didn't take the bus. I walked to the church because the church is where I keep pieces of myself I don't trust to the weather. The side door was open. The sanctuary smelled like lemon oil and paper bulletins. Sunlight drew ladders down the pews. I sat where Michael used to sit, third from the back, center aisle, because that is where his absence feels most like a presence. Pastor Helen came from the office, recognized my face, and set down whatever she was carrying. "Tell me," she said, which is the whole gospel of friendship in 2 words. I told her almost everything. I left out the name on the ticket because I needed one thing that was mine until I was ready to share it. She listened the way good pastors do, with her eyes, with her hands, with her quiet. When I finished, she said, "You won't sleep alone tonight. Ruth has a room. We'll move your important papers to the church safe. And tomorrow, we'll find a lawyer who doesn't flinch." At Ruth's, the kettle hummed and the couch had the courtesy to sag. She handed me a notepad because she knows I make lists when I'm afraid. After she fell asleep in her chair, I wrote, "Call Rosa about the security footage. Ask Pastor about storing the ticket. Find a lawyer. Pray before speaking. Breathe after hearing." I slept a little. I woke before dawn to a sky the pale color of forgiveness. I held the ticket to the window as if sunlight could notarize it. My name looked back without apology. At 7, I called Daniel. Vanessa's cheerful voicemail answered. I didn't leave a message. I called Rosa instead. "We keep 30 days, she said. Manager can pull the video. You were in your sweater with the daisies." "Blue daisies," I said, grateful for the silly accuracy that makes a memory feel true. By mid-morning, the ticket sat in a bank envelope labeled house papers, tucked in the church safe where wedding rings napped during baptisms. Pastor Helen locked the door and prayed over my shoulder, words like a hand steadying a ladder. On the way back, an SUV slowed beside Ruth's car. Vanessa lowered her window 2 inches and smiled the way cats do at birds. "Independence looks good on you," she said. "Don't do anything foolish." I kept my mouth shut, because silence can be a scalpel. Ruth squeezed the steering wheel until her knuckles blanched. "You're not alone," she said. "Not today. Not ever." By afternoon, rumors circled like lazy hawks. Someone texted to ask if I was confused. Someone else wondered if I needed supervision. Hurt flared and then cooled. I added one more line to my list. Tell the truth only to people who can carry it. That evening I set Ruth's table with the stubborn hopefulness of a woman who believes small order matters. I folded napkins like sails. After dinner, I went to the porch and watched the sky trade its pink apology for a dark blue promise. I thought of Emily pressing Bun Bun into my hands and of Lucas saying, "Fix it." I thought of Daniel as a boy under a blanket fort, trusting that the voice outside the sheet would always be mine. I prayed for all of us. Not fancy prayers. Lord, lead me. Lord, protect the children. Lord, break what needs breaking and mend what must be mended. When the porch light clicked on by itself, I realized I'd been clutching the railing so hard my fingers carried the wood grain. I let go. I wrote one last sentence in the notepad, so morning me could not pretend the night had lied. They didn't read the name on the ticket. I slept better. On the porch, the world had that after-rain clarity that makes everything look honest. I could smell wet pine, gasoline, and someone's laundry soap. Mrs. Greer's wind chime made questions out of metal. A dog barked 2 streets over and then decided it wasn't worth it. I remembered Michael teaching Daniel to check the oil in the car, how patient he'd been, how Daniel had rolled his eyes and then done the steps anyway. People become themselves twice. I wondered which version would wake tomorrow. I chose resolve. At the bus shelter, an elderly man in a veteran's cap sat down the bench from me. He nodded the nod of strangers who have survived something. He didn't ask what happened. He just said, "Folks get strange around money," as if he could read the ticket through my coat. I laughed. "They get strange around fear," I said. He tipped his cap, a small treaty between us. When I walked into the church office with Ruth, the copier hummed and the coffee smelled forgiving. Pastor Helen saw the envelope in my hands and unlocked the safe. "We'll make a log," she said, pulling out a ruled notebook. "Date, time, item, witnesses." She wrote our names carefully. It felt ceremonial, not because of the money, but because of the meaning, like laying down a cornerstone. We called an attorney whose name the church ladies speak with relief, reserved for plumbers and surgeons who arrive on time. His assistant set an appointment for the morning. "Bring proof," she said, a small word that tastes like iron and honey. That evening, Ruth insisted we walk to the end of the block and back, to tell your heart you're still in charge of your legs. We passed Mr. Alvarez misting his azaleas. He raised the nozzle. "Heard you have company," he said. "Tell them we like our street quiet." I smiled. Back in the kitchen, Ruth set out 2 mugs and a plate of cookies she saves for true emergencies. "Eat," she said. "Sugar can't heal, but it can remind a mouth that life includes sweetness on purpose." We sat a long time, saying very little. Sometimes companionship is a blanket over the shaking. Later, alone in the blue room, I put Emily's rabbit on the pillow beside me the way children seat dolls at tea. "Lord, if I am wrong, stop me. If I am right, make me brave and kind at the same time." Moonlight laid a small square on the carpet. I decided to take that as a yes. In the morning, I ironed my church dress because action calms me. I was reaching for the phone to call Rosa when an envelope slid under Ruth's front door without a knock. Unmarked. I felt the prickle that comes before lightning. Inside was a single sheet of paper. The handwriting was sharp enough to bleed through. "Stop your lies, Margaret. If you take this to court, I will ruin you. You don't stand a chance against me." I read it twice, then a third time, slower. Fear rose and met something steadier. I folded the paper and tucked it behind the notepad. Then I reached for my purse, for the key to the church office, for the bank envelope that held a ticket with my name printed where it mattered. Because humiliation was yesterday's story. Today's story was the beginning of a reckoning. Amen. Morning slid into Ruth's house like a careful visitor, quiet and steady, bringing the smell of cinnamon toast and the scrape of her old kettle. I woke on her couch with the stiff neck that comes from strange pillows and borrowed blankets. For a moment I forgot why I was there, and then memory arrived, merciless. The slammed door, the rain falling sideways on the porch, my suitcase bumping down the steps, and Vanessa's voice slicing through it all. Go die somewhere else. Ruth didn't ask how I'd slept. She set the coffee in front of me, the good mug with the fading blue tulip, and buttered toast as if food could be a shield. She knew better than to prod. People in pain need tasks, not pity. She gave me space, and space turned into strength. By 9 o'clock, her phone was buzzing with half the town's curiosity. In places like ours, gossip beats weather in the race to arrive first. The story had already shifted in the telling. I had finally snapped, or I was moving on at last, or Daniel and Vanessa were beginning their new life. No one said expelled, but absence has a shape everyone recognizes. I could not sit still. My hands shook with unused energy, so I told Ruth I needed to go to Rose's Quick Mart. She frowned, ready to say rest, but then nodded. After humiliation, there's a narrow bridge where you either freeze or move. I needed to move. The bell over the Quick Mart door jingled its tired greeting. Rosa looked up, saw my face, and her expression softened. Margaret, she said, I was hoping you'd come. Sit. The coffee's fresh. I don't need coffee, I said, though the smell tempted me. I need truth. Do you remember when I bought a lottery ticket here 3 weeks ago? She tilted her head, thinking. Then her eyes brightened with recognition. You joked about fruitcake raffles. I told you to sign it. You pulled that pen out like you were signing the Constitution. Full name, Margaret N. Miller. Teacher neat. Relief prickled my skin. Would you swear to that in court? She didn't flinch. I'll swear it in front of God himself. And listen. The manager pulled the video. The cameras caught it. You in your blue sweater with the daisies. The timestamp's clear. The ground steadied under me. Memory wasn't enough in this fight, but evidence that was stone. That afternoon Ruth drove me to Attorney Charles Bennett. His office smelled of lemon oil and old paper, the scent of discipline. Certificates lined the wall. His handshake was firm, his gaze sharper than his glasses. Tell me everything, he said. So I did: the Quick Mart, the pen, Rose's memory, the safe at church, the eviction, the envelope with threats. When I finished, he tapped his pen against the desk. If your signature is on that ticket, the law is with you. Presentation matters less than ownership. But understand this, they will not surrender 79 million easily. They will drag your name through every ditch they can find. They will call you senile, unstable, greedy. Your steadiness is your shield. Do you understand? I do, I said, though my voice wavered. Good. Do you still have the ticket? In the church safe, I answered. Perfect. That chain of custody is important. Ask your pastor to log each time the safe is opened. We will present it in court. Truth is stronger when it is documented. Relief, solid and terrifying, settled in me. By evening, Ruth and I returned to her house. Another envelope waited under the door, cream paper, jagged handwriting. Stop your lies. If you take this to court, I will destroy you. No signature. No need. The perfume clung faintly to the page. Ruth read it, her lips tightening. She's trying to scare you. Don't give her that satisfaction. I wanted to be brave, but that night fear sat heavy. I lay awake staring at the ceiling, thinking of Daniel. Would he take the stand against me? Would he pretend not to remember? Would he call me a liar? I whispered into the dark, I am afraid. But I am also the one who signed. Two truths side by side. The town began to shift. Vanessa wielded gossip like a weapon. She bought new jewelry, walked into church with Daniel on her arm, and whispered loudly enough for others to hear. It's heartbreaking, really. Margaret thinks she signed. Grief makes people imagine things. Sympathy spread like a contagion. At the post office, a woman patted my arm. Don't worry, honey. We all forget things. At the market, someone murmured to another, so sad, losing her mind like that. Humiliation went public. My cheeks burned wherever I walked, but small mercies kept me upright. Mr. Alvarez slipped a note into my pharmacy bag. My mama's praying for you. And at the diner, someone left a slice of pecan pie at my table with no explanation. Yet the cruelty stung louder. Two women at the salon whispered that I'd been seen wandering at night. Another neighbor claimed I'd forgotten to pay for groceries. Vanessa was feeding the fire, and the town was hungry. Lucas and Emily arrived one afternoon, pedaling fast. Lucas's bike chain squeaked with every turn. He jumped off before it stopped, cheeks flushed. "Grandma, Mom says you're sick. She says you made it all up." I crouched, my knees aching. "Sweetheart, I am not sick. I signed that ticket. Adults can lie loudly, but I am telling you the truth." His eyes searched mine. "I believe you," he said finally. Emily peeked from behind him, hair tangled from the wind. She lifted Bun-Bun's ear like a soldier raising a flag. "We're on your team," she whispered. My throat ached. "Then I'll fight for all of us," I said. Bennett phoned the next day. "We have the video. Clear timestamp, clear footage." The store provided a copy. "Rosa's testimony will stand." I filed for an injunction. "The commission has frozen disbursement until this is resolved." Relief washed over me, but almost immediately dread followed. My phone buzzed, unknown number. Drop it or regret it. 2 days later, a rock shattered Ruth's window, wrapped around it. "You think that ticket will save you? Try me. I will bury you." Glass scattered across the rug like bright confetti. Ruth fetched a broom, calm as a soldier. "We'll call the police. Then we'll make tea." The officer came, clipboard in hand, and promised patrols. His sympathy felt sincere, but helpless. That night I sat on the porch, Bun-Bun in my lap, and whispered into the dark, "You've underestimated me." The next days crawled by with a cruel rhythm. Every morning began with Ruth's kettle and ended with the sound of my own doubts echoing in her guest room. Sleep came in small, broken pieces. When I closed my eyes, I saw Daniel's face turn down, his silence louder than Vanessa's words. By the end of the week, the gossip had spread to every corner. At the grocery store, Mrs. Greer called from the produce aisle. "Margaret, honey, do you need help finding things?" The way she lingered on the word helped slice deeper than if she had shouted. At church, the whispers became a chorus. Vanessa walked in wearing a coat too fine for our pews, her diamonds flashing under the lights. She positioned herself where everyone could see, leaning close to Daniel and speaking just loud enough she really thinks it's hers. Poor woman. A ripple of sympathy, mixed with amusement, moved through the pews like a wave. I wanted to scream, but Pastor Helen looked directly at me during the sermon and said, "The Lord is not confused. He knows the truth." A hush fell. Vanessa's smile tightened, but she held her posture. Rumors grew more elaborate. Someone claimed I'd been seen paying bills twice, as if that proved confusion. Another said I had forgotten my own birthday. The stories became absurd, but the more absurd they were, the more easily people seemed to believe them. Then came something worse. A nurse from the local clinic, a woman I had known for years, stopped me in the street. "Margaret, is it true you're being evaluated for dementia?" My heart nearly stopped. "No," I said, sharper than I intended. She looked embarrassed. "It's what Vanessa said, that she was concerned for your well-being." Concern. The word burned like acid. Vanessa was poisoning the well with sugar-coated lies. That night I told Bennett. He frowned. "She's laying groundwork. Don't rise to it. We'll present facts, not feelings. But keep notes of every incident. Judges respect documentation." So I began to write everything down. Dates, times, places, names. My notepad filled with evidence, gossip cataloged like weeds. Lucas and Emily became my lifeline. They rode their bikes to Ruth's house whenever they could, sneaking away between homework and chores. One evening, Lucas sprawled across the couch, chewing on a pencil. "Grandma, what's a deposition?" "It's when lawyers ask questions before court, and you have to answer honestly," I explained. "Would I have to do one?" His eyes widened. "No," I said quickly. "You're children. This fight isn't yours." But in my heart, I feared Vanessa might try to drag them in. Emily curled beside me, whispering about her day. I sang in music class. Daddy clapped. Mommy didn't. She said it was too loud. I stroked her hair, my chest aching. "Sweetheart, your song is beautiful. Don't ever believe otherwise." They gave me something Vanessa couldn't touch. Hope. One afternoon, Ruth and I were walking back from the post office when I saw Daniel waiting by her mailbox. His shoulders sagged, his eyes shadowed. "Mom," he said softly. My breath caught. "Daniel, I don't want this fight," he murmured. "Can't you just let it go?" "Let it go." The words cracked. "You watched me walk out with a suitcase while your children cried. You stood silent. And now you want me to let go of the only proof I exist in this story." He winced. "Vanessa says." "Stop hiding behind her words," I snapped. "What do you say?" His mouth opened, closed. Headlights turned the corner. Vanessa's car. She rolled down the window 2 inches, her smile like a blade. "Daniel, we're late." He looked at me once, then climbed into the car. My son, ghost in the passenger seat. The threats escalated. Phone calls at midnight, nothing but silence. Notes slipped under the door. Liar. Fraud. Crazy old woman. Ruth called the police again. The officer took the report, shook his head. Without proof of who's sending them, there's little we can do. One morning we found tire marks gouged into Ruth's lawn. That night a car idled outside for hours, windows tinted. When Ruth stepped onto the porch, it drove off. The next day, an envelope appeared. Inside was a photocopy of my signature from the ticket with Vanessa's scrawl. "This proves nothing. The money is ours. You are nothing." I held it steady. Fear had burned itself out. What replaced it was resolve. Bennett called again. "The hearing is scheduled. 3 weeks. My chest tightened. "So soon?" "It's good," he said. "It means the judge takes this seriously. We'll prepare. Rosa will testify. The video is clear. Your ticket, your signature. Vanessa may wave around papers, but we have the truth." He trained me like a soldier. Answer simply. Don't over-explain. Don't let her lawyer bait you. The judge will see through theatrics. Steadiness is your shield. At night, I practiced in front of the mirror. "Did you sign the ticket?" "Yes." "Do you remember the date?" "Yes." "Was anyone with you?" "Rosa." Simple, steady. But fear crept back in quiet moments. What if the judge believed her? What if Daniel lied under oath? What if the children lost faith in me? I opened Michael's Bible, the one I had packed with shaking hands. A note slipped free, one I had forgotten. His handwriting, uneven near the end. "Dignity is not a gift they give you. It's the peace you never surrender." Tears blurred the page. His words became my armor. One stormy night, thunder rattled the windows. I sat on the porch, bun in my lap, rain misting my face. A voice inside me whispered, "You've survived worse. You will survive this." I lifted my chin to the dark. "You've underestimated me," I said aloud, because humiliation was finished. The battle was only beginning. The days that followed dragged like wet branches. Each hour carried the weight of 2, and waiting became its own kind of torment. Ruth's house was shelter, but also a cage. Safety wrapped in fear. Protection edged with helplessness. I tried to keep my hands busy. I folded laundry that wasn't mine, washed dishes already clean, knit 3 inches of a scarf only to unravel it again. Nothing stilled the mind. It circled the same bruise until the bruise became darker, deeper. Bennett called often, his voice steady as the tick of a clock. He guided me through affidavits, injunctions, discovery requests. Each word felt like a foreign language, but he translated with patience. "The signature is what matters," he repeated. He said it enough that I began to whisper it at night, a lullaby with the rhythm of justice. But outside Ruth's door, the world wasn't steady. At the grocery store, neighbors looked at me with too much sympathy, or not enough. Some leaned close, whispering encouragement, slipping folded notes of scripture into my hand. Others avoided me, as though scandal could pass like a cold. Social media became a courtroom without rules. Vanessa in new dresses, champagne glasses lifted, captions about freedom. Comments below speculated about my sanity. Ruth tried to take my phone, but I peeked anyway, and every cruel word burned, even when followed by a kind one. At night the house sighed with old wood and restless pipes. I lay awake staring at the ceiling, hearing the slam of the door that expelled me. Sometimes I imagined Michael's voice, telling me to hold steady, that storms always broke. Sometimes I feared I was only replaying echoes of my own need. I clutched Emily's rabbit to my chest, remembering her solemn face when she pressed it into my hand. "We're on your team." Those words became an anchor. 2 weeks before the hearing, another envelope appeared. This one was thicker, filled with photocopied affidavits. The statements claimed Daniel had bought the ticket, that I had become forgetful, that I had willingly handed it to him. The signatures looked rehearsed, the language too precise. Ruth and I sat at the kitchen table, the weak light turning the pages gray. "She's trying to build a false history," Ruth murmured. "She's trying to erase me," I whispered. Bennett flipped through them with raised brows. "Fabrications. They won't stand against video evidence and a signed ticket. But it shows you what you're up against. She won't play fair." Daniel remained silent, but silence can scream. One evening I returned from church and found him waiting by Ruth's mailbox. He looked thinner, his eyes shadowed. "Mom," he said, voice rough. I froze. "Daniel, I don't want this," he murmured. "I don't want you hurt. Can't you just let it go?" My chest tightened. "Let it go." My voice cracked sharp. "You watched me walk out of my own house with a suitcase while your children cried. You stood there silent. And now you want me to let go of the only proof I exist in this story." He flinched but didn't argue. Vanessa says. Vanessa says. Vanessa says. "What do you say?" He looked down. For a moment I thought he might answer. Then headlights turned the corner. Vanessa's car. She leaned out, smiling like a predator. "Daniel, we're late." He stepped back, torn, then climbed in. The window slid shut. My breath turned white in the cold air. "My son," ghost behind glass. The threats grew bolder. Midnight phone calls clicked to silence when I answered. Notes on the porch in black marker. Liar. Fraud. Crazy old woman. Ruth called the police again. The officer's sympathy was real, but powerless. Malice hides too well behind curtains. Lucas and Emily visited when they could. They rode bikes, backpacks bouncing. Lucas asked questions about judges, robes, truth. Emily, younger, curled in my lap and whispered stories about school. I never let them see how much I needed them, how their hugs stitched me back together. One night, after they left, I opened Michael's Bible. A note I had forgotten slipped free. His handwriting, shaky but clear. "Dignity is not a gift they give you. It's the peace you never surrender." I pressed the paper to my cheek, tears finally cleansing instead of drowning. Bennett intensified our preparation. We sat in his office, papers spread like battlefield maps. He made me recount every detail. Dates, times, clothing, words. He warned me that Vanessa's lawyer would paint me as bitter, unstable. "Answer simply," he said. "You don't need to prove your worth. Just the facts. The truth is already yours." I nodded, though fear throbbed in my chest. Truth is fragile until spoken aloud. At Ruth's, night stretched long. She stayed up with me, drinking tea, playing cards until eyes blurred. "She can't bury you," Ruth said fiercely one night. "You're not soil. You're stone." Her words steadied me, but fear still crept in, whispering questions. What if the judge believed Vanessa? What if Daniel testified against me? What if the children were dragged into this storm? I prayed, sometimes aloud, sometimes in silent tears, that God would shield them. Then came the photograph. Another envelope, rain-soaked. Inside, a grainy photo of me at Rose's Quick Mart the day I bought the ticket. Relief surged, proof, but scrawled at the bottom, handing it to Daniel. My stomach lurched. Bennett examined it the next morning. Crude forgery. Metadata will expose it, but it proves again she'll try anything. That night thunder rolled over the horizon. I sat on Ruth's porch, clutching the rabbit, staring at the storm. My hands trembled, but my voice did not. "You've underestimated me," I whispered, because humiliation was finished. The battle was beginning. The forged photograph was only the beginning. Within days, another envelope appeared. This one contained what looked like financial statements, bank slips supposedly proving Daniel had withdrawn cash to buy the ticket. The dates were wrong, the numbers clumsy, but the intent was clear. Vanessa was building a false paper trail. Bennett wasn't rattled. Forgery is easier to create than to defend in court. But remember, appearances can sway opinion. We'll counter with expert testimony. I stared at the pages. How many lies can she spin before people stop listening to the truth? He leaned forward. One truth, spoken steadily, outweighs 100 lies. Trust that. Meanwhile, the town grew restless. At the diner, conversations fell silent when I entered. At the library, a mother pulled her child away from me as though scandal were contagious. On social media, Vanessa's family painted her as the savior of Daniel, rescuing him from a delusional mother. The shame felt heavier than any suitcase I had carried. But Ruth's voice anchored me. If you stop walking into rooms, she wins twice. So I forced myself to attend church, to shop at the grocery store, to greet neighbors even when their smiles were thin. One evening, Lucas and Emily arrived with flushed faces. Lucas slammed his backpack down. Mom says you're trying to steal. She says the judge will lock you up. My heart clenched. Listen to me, Lucas. The judge will look at evidence. I signed the ticket. That's the truth. He bit his lip. I told her you wouldn't lie. She said kids don't understand. Emily climbed into my lap. I understand, she whispered fiercely. You signed it. We saw you write our birthday cards. It's the same writing. Tears pricked my eyes. Children had more clarity than adults. Nights were the hardest. Sleep evaded me, and when it came, it dragged nightmares. I dreamed of Daniel pointing at me in court, calling me a liar, Emily crying, Lucas turning away. I woke gasping, the rabbit clutched in my arms. One sleepless night, Ruth found me in the kitchen. She poured tea, her hand steady. Do you ever get tired of being brave? I asked. All the time, she said. But tired brave is still brave. I let her words settle into me like a bomb. The legal process tightened. Bennett filed motions, exchanged discovery, arranged depositions. Vanessa's lawyer sent demands, lists of medications I'd taken, notes from my doctor, even church attendance records. They're fishing for signs of confusion, Bennett explained. Don't worry. They'll find nothing. Still, the invasion felt raw. My private life turned inside out, examined like a specimen. I felt stripped of dignity, even as I fought to preserve it. Then came Daniel's crack in the armor. Bennett slid a page across the desk, an affidavit Vanessa had drafted for him to sign, claiming he bought the ticket. His signature line was blank. He refused, Bennett said. Hope stirred, fragile as a bird's wing. Maybe somewhere inside, Daniel remembered the boy he once was, the boy who begged me not to let go of his bike seat, who ran into my arms when nightmares came. But Vanessa was relentless. She paraded her family through town, smiling wide, boasting of future mansions. She threw a party at a rented hall, inviting half the county, presenting herself as a benefactor ready to share the blessing. Photographs of Champagne Towers appeared online. My name was never mentioned, but everyone knew the unspoken target. I stayed home that night, staring at the quiet street. Lord, I whispered, give me strength to stand when they expect me to fall. The threats escalated again. A phone call late one night carried a woman's laugh. Vanessa's, unmistakable, before the line went dead. Another envelope contained nothing but shredded newspaper. And one evening, Ruth spotted a car parked across the street, headlights off, engine humming. It stayed for an hour before driving away. We called the police again. The officer noted everything, promised extra patrols. But his eyes said what we both knew. Intimidation without fingerprints is hard to punish. Bennett intensified my preparation. He held mock questioning sessions. Mrs. Miller, isn't it true you're confused? No, I remember exactly. Isn't it easier to let your son and daughter-in-law manage the winnings? Easier is not the same as right. We repeated until the answers were second nature. Ruth watched, arms crossed, pride shining through worry. You're steadier than you think, she said. One Sunday at church, Vanessa cornered me near the coat rack. Her perfume filled the air like poison. Drop it, she hissed. You don't know who you're dealing with. I do, I answered calmly. A frightened woman who doesn't believe there's enough. Her eyes narrowed. She turned on her heel, her heels clicking sharp as gunfire. The children sensed the storm. Lucas drew pictures of courtrooms with stick figures, always with a tall judge holding a gavel. Emily sang softly to Bun Bun, cradling him like he needed reassurance. In their innocence, they became my strength. I wrote letters late at night. To Daniel, love has borders. I'm painting mine. To Lucas and Emily, truth walks slow but steady. Courage often whispers. To myself, you signed the ticket. Don't forget your own name. As the hearing date drew close, my anxiety became almost physical. My hand shook, my heart raced. But the more Vanessa threatened, the clearer my purpose grew. This wasn't about money. It was about dignity. And dignity was worth the fight. The courthouse smelled of polish and old paper, a place where lives were reduced to files stacked on desks. I sat on the hallway bench, palms damp, the rabbit Emily had given me tucked in my purse like a secret charm. Ruth sat beside me, her hand covering mine, steady as stone. Bennett leaned against the wall, flipping through documents with the calm of a man who lived inside storms. I thought I was prepared. Weeks of threats, forged papers, gossip, Daniel's silence. Yet when the bailiff opened the door and called my name, my knees wobbled. I forced them forward, one step, then another, into the room where truth would either stand or collapse. The judge sat high, face lined but alert, eyes sharp as glass. Behind her hung a flag that didn't move, the air conditioning humming like a tired hymn. On the left side, Vanessa sat in a crimson suit, her hair gleaming under the lights, her smile rehearsed. Daniel hunched beside her, gaze fixed on the table. I searched his face for the boy who once begged me not to let go of his bicycle seat. All I saw was a man trapped in someone else's storm. The hearing began with routine. Case numbers, names read into record, motions acknowledged. But under the monotony, emotion trembled like a fault line. When Bennett rose to speak, his voice was steady. Your Honor, this case is simple. It is about truth written in ink and witnessed on camera. My client, Mrs. Margaret Miller, purchased and signed the winning ticket. She is the rightful owner of the $79 million prize. Vanessa's lawyer, a tall man with slicked hair and a voice that curled like smoke, countered quickly. Your Honor, the opposing party is mistaken. She is grieving, confused, and misremembering. The ticket was purchased and presented by my clients, Daniel and Vanessa Miller. We will show that Margaret handed it over willingly. 78. That was the age he used when he described me, though I was 58, adding 20 years with a word as though wrinkles could erase ink. Rage rose, but I held still. The first witness was Rosa. She entered with squared shoulders, still in her clerk's apron as if she had come straight from the Quick Mart. She spoke clearly. Mrs. Miller bought the ticket. She joked about fruitcake raffles. I told her to sign. She did, full name. I saw it. The opposing lawyer pressed. Isn't it possible you misremember? You serve hundreds of customers. Rosa's eyes narrowed. I've worked that counter 20 years. I remember who argued over nickels and who signed a $79 million ticket. It was her. The video came next. The grainy footage flickered on the screen. There I was in my blue sweater with daisies, pen in hand, signing. No theatrics, just fact. The timestamp blinked in the corner like a heartbeat. Gasps rippled across the gallery. Vanessa's smile tightened, but her lawyer tried again, producing the altered photo. Your Honor, evidence shows she handed it to her son. Bennett barely rose. Forgeries are poor companions here. Metadata shows mismatched timestamps. A forensic analyst will testify it was doctored. Even the judge's brow lifted at the sloppiness. Then came my turn. I walked to the witness stand, the rabbit's weight in my purse, Michael's words echoing. Sing the Psalms out loud. The soul remembers. I swore to tell the truth, voice trembling. Bennett's questions guided me gently. I recounted the day, the rain, the sweater, Rosa's grin, my pen scratching my full name. Vanessa's lawyer rose for cross-examination, his tone dipped in honey. Mrs. Miller, grief clouds memory, does it not? Isn't it possible you only imagine signing? I looked him in the eye. Grief makes you cry at odd times. It does not invent ink. That is my name. I know it because I wrote it. He tried again. Wouldn't it be easier for you to step aside? Let your son and daughter-in-law manage the winnings? Easier is not the same as right, I said. Peace built on lies isn't peace at all. Murmurs rippled. The judge's gavel silenced them. Finally, Daniel was called. He walked slowly, shoulders burdened. His voice was low, hesitant. I don't remember who signed. Mom could have. Vanessa said she did. But I don't remember. Vanessa's head whipped toward him, eyes blazing. A crack in her control. And then a child's voice from the gallery. Emily. Too young to be silent. She signed it. Grandma told us. Gasps filled the courtroom. A bailiff hushed her, but the truth was already out, raw and unpolished. Hours blurred. Testimonies stacked like bricks. Lies wavered against evidence. Closing arguments finished, and the judge leaned back. The silence before her words felt endless. This case is not complicated, she said finally. The evidence is clear. The ticket was signed by Margaret Miller. Any pending disbursement is stayed. The Lottery Commission shall recognize her as sole owner. All winnings, assets, and interest are to be released accordingly. The gavel struck. The sound echoed like a door slamming on years of silence. Relief washed over me, not triumph, but release, like lungs gasping after surfacing from deep water. Ruth squeezed my hand. Rosa dabbed at her eyes. Vanessa's face cracked like porcelain under strain. She hissed at Daniel, but he stared at the floor. For once, silence became his shield. Outside, reporters shouted questions. I answered none. This wasn't victory, it was survival. In the car, Ruth asked softly, "What now?" I looked at the pale sky. "Boundaries," I said, "and dignity." That night, Daniel came to Ruth's porch. He stood in the shadows, face drawn, hands shoved into his pockets like a boy caught stealing apples. "Mom," he whispered. I waited. Apologies should never be rescued. They must arrive whole. "I let her speak for me," he said finally. "I let fear make me small. I don't expect forgiveness." I studied him, the boy and the man layered together. "Forgiveness isn't forgetting," I said quietly. "I forgive you. But there are conditions. I won't live under your roof, or hers. The money will be held in trusts for the children. You and Vanessa will have nothing unless respect is restored. If not, the road splits here." His shoulders sagged, but gratitude flickered in his eyes, faint as a candle. "I understand." When he left, I sat with Ruth on the porch, crickets filling the silence. Relief and sorrow braided together. Untidy. Real. The weeks after were full of decisions. Bennett helped me set up trust for Lucas and Emily. Funds they could access for education, for homes, for lives of their own. I bought a modest house with a porch facing sunrise. I refused the lure of mansions, cars, jewelry. Wealth without peace is just noise. I filled my kitchen with small comforts. A blue kettle that whistled cheerfully, curtains with daisies like the sweater from that day, shelves lined with photographs of Michael and the children. Neighbors came by, some ashamed for believing lies, others curious, hungry for details. I offered little. My story wasn't gossip to feed. It was a scar to protect. One evening, Lucas and Emily sat at my table coloring. Emily looked up, cheeks smudged with crayon. "Grandma, are you happy now?" I bent down, kissed her forehead. "Yes, baby. Not because of money. Because I stood up when it mattered." Lucas frowned thoughtfully. "Does that mean Dad was wrong?" The question pierced. "Sometimes," I said gently, "people we love make mistakes. What matters is whether they learn." Daniel visited rarely, always alone. Once he sat on my porch, eyes hollow. "She's gone," he said. I understood without needing details. Vanessa had found other stages, other audiences. She left when the spotlight dimmed. "I don't know how to fix it," he admitted. "Start with the children," I told him, "and with telling the truth, even when no one claps." Faith returned slowly, like water to parched ground. I attended church again, sitting in the third pew from the back, where Michael always sat. Pastor Helen squeezed my hand and whispered, "You sang the Psalms out loud after all." At night, on my new porch, I whispered to Michael's memory. I did it. I remembered. The wind rustled the trees, as if answering. Rumors lingered, as they always do. Some insisted I'd schemed from the start. Others painted me as saint or fool. But none of it mattered. My life no longer belonged to their interpretations. For the first time in years, I felt whole. If you are listening now, wondering whether courage has an expiration date, let my story answer. Age does not disqualify you from dignity. Betrayal does not erase your worth. And no one, not even family, has the right to silence your name. So hear me clearly. If you've ever felt forgotten, pushed aside, told you are too old or too small to matter, remember me. I sat in that courtroom, heard the gavel fall, and reclaimed what was mine. Stand when they expect you to kneel. Speak when they expect you to stay silent. Never hand over your dignity, because tired brave is still brave, and brave is enough. And if my story touched you, if it reminded you that no one is ever too old to stand up for dignity, then stay with me. There are more stories of mothers, grandmothers, widows who were underestimated and rose anyway. Subscribe so you don't miss the next one. Tap like so these stories reach more women who need them. And share in the comments. What moment made you choose dignity over silence?